Hello everyone. I hope you're doing well and your preparations are on track. In the last 4 months of this year, we are dedicating ourselves to the preparation of optional. As a result, we have launched a skill development and mentorship program. We are going to do rigorous answer writing, a lot of content enrichment, and all the themes of PYQs will be discussed. I feel it is imperative that we become mains ready by the December of 2025 for our 2026 attempt. I strongly feel that in order to write good answers, you should know how the toppers have already written, how they think, and how the frameworks are made. For this, what I have done is I have taken answer sheets of two toppers, one AIR 1 Ishita Kishore and the second AIR 43 Archita Goyal. Both were my students earlier. I have discussed a particular question and tried to uncover how they were thinking, what was the frameworks which they adopted, what was the content which they are writing. In the coming part of the video, I'll strongly recommend you that you watch the video till the very end to take benefit of it. And at the same time, I'm attaching the answer sheets in the description box of this video also. So please do watch the entire video till the end. Okay, let's first understand the question, everyone. The question says, central to Aristotle's political thought is his classification of different types of political constitutions in his work, Politics, and you have to evaluate it. So it is saying central to Aristotle's political thought is the classification of different type of political constitutions. We know Aristotle has classified different type of political constitutions in his work, Politics. How has the classification been done? If you can see here, the classification has been done on the basis of number of rulers, what is the correct form, and what is the deviant form or the perverted form of governance. Now, you need to understand that what is Aristotle's political thought. This entire is Aristotle's political thought. It has various theories. However, the examiner is asking you that central to the political thought is the classification which he has done. And where he has done the classification? He has done the classification in his theory of constitution. So the examiner is asking you that you have to evaluate the fact that this classification is central to his thought. That means there are other elements of thought also. There are these elements. You don't have to write any of these in your answer, but you can give a reference that amongst many ideas or amongst many different thoughts which are a part of Aristotle's philosophy, it is the classification which is at the center, which is at the heart, because he wants to essentially, वो क्यों कर रहा है ये सब? He wants to find the best practicable form of government. So he has to evaluate the various governments or the various constitutions. They were used they were used interchangeably back then. So he's using this this entire analysis so as to come to this conclusion. So you have to tell the examiner that you are aware that this is how Aristotle was thinking. Now let's see how the toppers think and what they have written. So first, if you look at this same question, the answer to the same question, this is a copy of AIR 1, Ishita Kishore. How did she attempt this question as a part of her practice? Aristotle is known as the father of political science. He gave his theory of constitution after studying more than 158 constitutions. Let's first see what the introduction is about. So what she has done is she has in a way written for Aristotle as a part of the introduction. You can do this also, whereby we'll write here the introduction. How the introduction can be done? The introduction can be with respect to, let's say we'll pass a comment on the thinker, or it is essentially a kind of a evaluation of thinker. That's one way of writing an introduction. If we look at another topper's paper, and this is the AWS of AIR 43, Archita back then, what was she writing? She is saying Aristotle, the father of political science, is known for basing his theories on empiricism and observation. It is this scientific analysis of politics that bestows upon him a title of pragmatic thinker who combines descriptive and normative elements to political science. Now, this is again, if you see, it is again on the same lines where you have evaluated the thinker in your introduction. However, this introduction is too long. You will not be able to write this long introduction as a part of your answer. So you'll have to you have to cut it short. Nevertheless, that is not a problem. But this is a way of writing introduction, if you can see. What can be another way of writing introduction? You could have simply mentioned about the context of the question. The context of the question is primarily his theory of constitution, which he writes because he wants to find the best practicable form of government. Okay, you could have written something like this also, but not a problem. Introductions can be written in different manners. But this is a contextual way of introducing a question. This is primarily the way in which you talk about the thinker. Both ways can be used for introduction. You should rather uh, you should experiment in your answer writings, that either we'll talk about the thinker or we'll try to go into a little bit more detail, whereby we'll go into the context also. Whatever is comfortable to you, but practice on these lines. Let's take the discussion forward. So what has she written? I'm now going back to AIR 1's copy. Okay. Aristotle doesn't differentiate between government and constitution, as they are bound by the same, as they're bound to be same. It's back then it was considered that way. Hence, he believed government must act according to the constitution, and often called as the father of constitutionalism also. So if you see here, again, you are talking about Aristotle. You have not started the discussion on the theme which is being asked, which is the theory of constitution. So it's a little bit overstretched. Okay. Then he classifies constitution on two broad categories: right or ideal, wrong or perverted, as we have discussed earlier. And then it is about a little bit discussion on that. Okay. Then there is a small this table also made. That's good. One should try for something like this. Aristotle believed that golden mean is the golden rule, and hence policy is the best practicable form. Both rich and poor trust the middle class. Hence, polity is the mixture of oligarchy and democracy. Okay. Yet in his classification, now after explaining this entire thing, I think most of us who have studied Aristotle, we know that we'll have to go into a little bit detail. So one or two paragraphs, we have to talk about how this is the best form, but it is not practical because this generates to this. Therefore, the best practicable comes out to be this. And you'll have to tell how Aristotle, he believes that this will convert to this, and he is not in favor of democracy. And the definition of democracy, please remember, is the rule of poor people. In terms of Aristotle's thought, it is not the same definition as we use today. So Aristotle is not in favor of democracy. If this is the least, this is the least worst. If this is the best, this is the best practicable. So this is something which Aristotle comes to. So you talk a little bit about this. You should make the table. And now, taking the discussion forward, after that, if you see here, what she has done is, yet in his classification, there is no place for limited monarchy, presidential, parliamentary form of government, federal government. In my opinion, this was not at all needed. So you don't have to go into such kind of evaluation. Why? It was not the times when these kinds of governments were existing. So instead of this, we'll talk how we can write something better. If I go towards her paper, and now I am talking about the paper of this topper, if you see what has she written in his theory of constitution, he studies around 158 constitutions. In his book Politics, he classifies these constitutions into types of governance, but also associates normative aspect, which is moral and corrupt. So according to Aristotle, states can be divided: rule of one, rule of many, rule of one, few or many. And she's also explaining this. Fine. And if you see here now, being a firm believer of the golden rule of golden mean, Aristotle prefers polity as the best practicable form, better than the others. And in the end, she's writing, it is hence through empirical study that Aristotle proves that polity is the best form, his theory setting the stage for modern thinkers such as Locke and Arendt. This is a better conclusion. Why? Because in a way, you are trying to tell that through this classification, how this classification helped later on develop our understanding. So this was not done by this person, by this topper. So here 6 marks, here 8 marks. Okay, that's how you have to understand the art of answer writing. And I'll take you one step further. So if I talk about the question again. Let me go back to the question again. This was our question. Central to Aristotle's political thought is the classification. So both of them have not mentioned this, that this is the thought and why this is at the center. See, this is at the center because you have to understand that Aristotle is a person for whom political stability is very important. So he is doing all these things because he wants to find a stable idea of governance. He's not like Plato, whose concern is excellence. So that is why he goes for philosopher king. Aristotle's concern is not excellence. His concern is political stability. And this is further substantiated by his theory of revolution also, in which he tries to understand all the causes of revolution. This shows that he's a conservative thinker. So why is this classification central to his thought? Because he is a conservative thinker. He's somebody who wants political stability. If you can write this thing, it will be great. Not if you're not able to write, then also at least they are asking you to evaluate this. They are asking you that central to his thought is the classification of different types of political constitutions. Please evaluate this. Now, if I ask you a question that, let's say Aristotle has done this classification, if I ask you to evaluate this, so what I'm asking you is, what are the positives and what are the negatives? The positive is that Aristotle's classification gives us a normative base through which we can analyze various systems. Why? Because if this is the system, Aristotle's classification tells us that it is a perverted form, it is a deviant form, it is a form in which the ruler is ruling for his self-interest. So it gives me a base, foundation to analyze things. Normative base is given by Aristotle's classification. Second good part is that his classification is empirical. So this is much more acceptable. It is not from some other world. These are positives of his classification. Negatives are also there. Why? Because he has taken, or his view is a very prejudiced view of democracy. In his classification, while he says that this is the best form, this is also acceptable to him, this is the best practicable, this is the worst form, he says democracy, which is the rule of poor people, he is not in favor of this because he considers that people, they will not be able to govern and it will lead to mobocracy. And this also shows us that Aristotle is elitist thinker. But despite that, we are saying his view is prejudiced because he wants elites to be there. So here it is the middle class. Why can't poor rule? If I say that poor can't rule, in today's world, we'll not accept this. Why? Because we don't have any kind of educational or economic criteria to choose a MP or a MLA who will go and finally make laws. Our MPs and MLAs, irrespective of whatever their economic status is, irrespective of whatever their educational status is, we allow them to go and become our representative. So in democracy, if poor people are ruling, we see a kind of a prejudiced view by Aristotle. Back then, everybody was an elitist thinker. Even Plato is elitist. Aristotle is elitist. So the only negative which comes from this classification is that there is a prejudiced view of democracy. One more negative we can think of, that there is a certain cultural bias also, because he is only talking about the systems which were prevalent in the ancient Greece. So he is not analyzing any other system. So, but again, this is of lesser relevance because it was not a globalized world back then. So you did not have that kind of information. Despite that, if you see that if you have mentioned only this part also, then also I'll say, okay, you have gone one step further. Even if you're not able to write this, the bare minimum which the examiner expects is that you are able to tell that to his political thought, these things, this is central, sorry, and this is basically a part of theory of constitution. In his theory of constitution, he has given this entire classification. So through the analysis of these two toppers, I hope you get to know how you have to think and how you have to write. Your language is going to really matter. If you look at this particular answer, it's a very good answer and very good use of keywords, and the idea that it's normative, it's empirical, these kinds of things are discussed. So I hope this small discussion helps you. I hope you benefited from the video. I'll request you to like the video and share the video with someone who may benefit from it. Please do leave a comment also, and I'll be seeing you very soon in a new video. Till then, all the very best and thank you.